thanks for coming out, and welcome to another 1 Million Cups. Appreciate everyone's attendance. And how many people here are here for the first time? Excellent. Hey, yeah. Casey, good to see you. Welcome. How many people here consider themselves an entrepreneur? That's even better. Great, thank you. We've got two really good presentations this morning, and before I introduce Charlie, Ed Filmer, would you like to give an introduction to your guest this morning briefly?
Stand up, please. Elena is a visiting German broadcast journalist in a fellowship program of exchange. I get to go to Germany. She gets to come to America. So she's here, and if weather holds out, we're going to chase tornadoes Friday.
Welcome. Thanks, Ed. Okay, first up is Springfield Creatives and Charlie Rosenberry. Charlie, you're up.
All right. Hey, thanks for having us. So first things first, I want to tell you about the high-level view of what we do. Our mission is to join to build a better community for creative professionals in Springfield. We are a nonprofit organization formed about a year ago, and our goal is to help foster kind of the marriage between the arts that go on here and the business that go on here to really target creative professionals. So, you know, our membership consists of graphic designers, t-shirt shops, furniture makers. We kind of run the gamut in terms of what it is our members do. As long as it's creative and you get something from our programming, we're trying to get something for you. Also, I apologize for these transitions. I made this in Keynote, and it kind of got cheesed up when I exported it to PowerPoint. So today I want to tell you about our story, how and what we do, and what you can do, and what we're kind of looking for from this community. So Springfield Creative started as a Facebook group in 2011, and it was just kind of, people posted what they were working on. It was a very informal thing. And then I guess mid 2014, I went to Jared Johnson, who had started the group, and said, hey, we've got like 500 something members here. Maybe we could turn this into more than just like an informal group on Facebook. And he said, funny, you're like the fourth person to come tell me that. And so he got all of us together that had been talking about this, and we basically spent the summer building this thing and proposing what it was going to be. We then had a kind of informal meeting at Farmers Park and invited everybody in the Facebook group and said, hey, we want to take this to the next level. Come hear what we want to do. And we had a really good turnout, and we said, this is what it's going to be. What do you think? Everybody said, I'm in. And we had our first meeting, September of 2014. So we are a volunteer-driven organization. There's nobody makes a salary or anything. It's entirely run by people in their spare time. We're member-supported, so you pay to become a member. In our first year, we've already gotten over 200 members. Additionally, students are free. We think it's really important that we try to get students plugged into the creative professions here in town before they graduate, so they don't think they immediately have to move to Kansas City or St. Louis or whatever. And then also we're sponsor supported. So these are kind of most of our high level sponsors. They really, between the members and the sponsors, that really is what brings in our money that we can then spend on programming and bringing in speakers and things like that, which we'll get to in a little bit. So like I said, it's all volunteer driven, so we kind of break down what we do into committees, and they all kind of have a focus that they deal with to kind of keep things moving. So that way the board isn't trying to do everything. I don't know how the 1 Million Cups people do this every week. I mean, I'd go nuts. So meetings. We meet once a month. We meet the third Thursday at rotating venues around town. And so this is good for both the venues and the members. So you can see we kind of have a wide variety of the types of places we like to go. It's like I said, it's kind of a really good opportunity to get these people in the doors of businesses that they might not know exist in Springfield or that they heard of and maybe haven't seen yet. And it's also a good way for these businesses to get in front of our membership. So at these meetings, the first part of the evening is kind of social. It's kind of like when you get here, you're all shaking hands and drinking coffee. We shake hands and drink beer because it's in the afternoon. And then that's always followed by a speaker or some other programming, usually related, again, to something that ideally will appeal to our membership, knowing that they are, doing creative things in their jobs and that kind of stuff. So in addition to our meetings, we also have other special events. That's what this committee deals with. The first Thursday of every month, we have a happy hour. And actually, next month, we're partnering with Mothers and doing a tap room takeover at Skinny Slim's, and it's going to be a paint a pint thing where you get a pint and it'll be kind of arts and crafts and beer, We also bring in national speakers. So our big one from this last year was Aaron Draplin, who is kind of a celebrity graphic designer out of Portland. He's done a lot of stuff. He has, if you Google him, you'll see all kinds of really interesting instructional videos and like storytelling. He's just a real personable, interesting guy. So we held that at Missouri State, and we had almost 300 people show up. It was a free event per Missouri State's rules. So we had a really great turnout. He had a really good time, and we really felt like our first big national speaker that we brought in was a big success. Just last month, I think it was last month, we had Quinn Norton, who is a national journalist. She writes a lot for Wired, like the O'Reilly books. And she also covered the Occupy movement and the Arab Spring type stuff. So she just kind of came and spoke about her experiences as a journalist and the things she's seen and the different movements she's kind of covered and what that was like for her. That was a super informative talk. I think we had over maybe 150 people come out. It was held at the Creamery. It was pretty good. So we also do community outreach, which is just kind of covers all of our nonprofit type stuff. So our membership, we're kind of in a unique spot where most networking and associations have kind of a nonprofit component, but it's usually just consists of packing meals or painting, and those, and not to discount the value of those, but our by definition, our membership has certain talents and skills that are kind of unique in terms of what these organizations need. So we're actually partnering with Give Ozarks. If you're unfamiliar, it was like a 24-hour online Kickstarter type thing for local organizations. We're partnering with them next year to more or less mentor some of their organizations in terms of how to maximize marketing for that event and put together some better materials and help them be more successful at that this coming year. Advocacy. So we also, where it makes sense, we think it's important that we kind of have a voice for our members. We put out a survey and said, what kind of things are you interested in terms of what's going on locally? What's our role in that? And everybody said, our membership kind of has a pretty united stance on a lot of these things that affect our community. And so we wanted to be able to kind of give a voice to that group, on behalf of our group to the city. And so, like I said, that's advocacy for our members. Additionally, we advocate for Springfield as a whole, both to the rest of our community, but outside of our community. Especially among my generation that kind of grew up here, we kind of grew up with I'm from Springfield kind of thing, that nothing goes on here. That kind of stuff. And so our goal is to help show that a lot of really interesting and creative things do go on here. And so we're talking about perhaps this winter having a hashtag campaign, something like SGF Creates, where we're going to really try and flood Twitter and Instagram with pictures of people making interesting things and doing cool stuff. So what can you do? First off, join us. Like I said, any creative field certainly fits our bill, but we also have lawyers and accountants and someone who's running a political campaign currently that's a member. So there's no pre-qualifications to be in our organization. If what we do and what we're talking about is interesting to you, then by all means come be a part of it. Sponsor us. I'll have more information about this if you want to come see me afterwards. But we have lots of perks and good things like that if you want to help support what we're doing. And then most importantly, hire us. So I've heard lots of stories of people that need a new website, or they need new branding, and so they just Google it, or they know somebody in Oklahoma that does it, or St. Louis. There is absolutely no reason you need to go out of town for any of these creative things. There is so much talent here, so many companies doing really national level quality work. So really try to keep that local. If you go to our website, we have a member directory and a business directory. So that's great resources for you to find people for your jobs. So yeah, like I said, check us out on Facebook, on our website, and thanks for listening.
Guys, we're going to open it up for questions and feedback. So just raise your hand. We'll bring you a mic. I personally, so I went to Missouri State, and I was in that mentality that, like, okay, after I graduate, I have to get out of here. And when I moved back, Springfield Creatives was one of, like, the first things I saw that I got really excited about because, and what's cool about it is that one of your main goals is to bring jobs and keep jobs here and show people that that does exist. Can you tell us more about, like, how that job board works, how you guys present your membership with over 200 members, what jobs are available?
Yes, the job board. I'm glad you mentioned that. So part of one of the perks I mentioned as a sponsor is we have a internal job board that gets blasted out to our members monthly. And so I know, I showed you those sponsors. A lot of those people are using that job board pretty actively, and are in those newsletters we send out. That is by far the most clicked section. So it's a really good way for these companies that might not otherwise have a direct contact with these, I'd say young creatives. Our organization, I'd say the vast majority are younger than 35. We do have some older members as well. That's not necessarily intentional. It's just kind of the way it worked out. But yeah, I mean, it's a really great way to get in front of young people, mostly young people that might be at their first job out of college, ready to move on to the next thing. And like you mentioned, we're really trying to target college kids to get them to stay here because, I know a lot of people that are in Springfield Creatives just kind of lucked into a job in Springfield, and then once they had already committed to a job, said, "Wow, there's actually a lot more going on here than I realized as a student." So we're all about stopping that brain drain.
So you said initially you went out on Facebook. How did you get that Facebook page out to people so they could find you? What was your process there? Yeah, so
I kind of came in probably, I wasn't that early in the Facebook thing, but I mean, I think it was almost all word of mouth. There was, I mean, initially, I think part of the reason that we kind of took it to the next level is that as that Facebook group, there was an attempt to kind of have real life meetup events and things like that, but they were irregular. They weren't very well attended, and some people started to say it felt kind of cliquey and all this. So, I mean, I guess part of that clickiness was the fact that people were telling their friends they already were connected with. Again, it was very much just like, I think Jared probably just started it on a whim, thinking, I have friends that do this, let's have a forum for keeping in touch, and then it just grew organically. Yeah.
Hey, Charlie, I got a question about the name, Springfield Creatives. So I live in Ozark. Is this group for me, or Joplin, or Branson? And do you want to ever grow beyond the Ozarks, or is this really just
a we have a very hard cutoff line. If you live south of Evans Road, no, no, again. I mean, we have no prerequisites for membership. If somebody from California wanted to become a member, I would gladly take their money and say, you're paying for your own ticket to our events. But yeah, I mean, I think really our goal is to be kind of Southwest Missouri. We do have some members in Joplin, certainly Nixa, Ozark, and Branson. And in terms of growth, I mean, I think really what I'd like to see is, get a little more, grow a little more within kind of our region now. And I think if we were to grow, I don't think we're ever going to do like chapters or anything. It's really focused. It is very much tied to geography. And really, I would just like to see us get a lot more members and get much more people out at our meetings and have higher budgets to do greater things for our local community.
Let's talk about value, right? So what is the biggest value that you think your members get from being a part of the organization? And then if somebody was interested in sponsoring the organization, what do you think is the biggest thing that they're going to take away from sponsoring this organization versus some of the other nonprofits here in town?
Sure. So, I think members, again, we have a wide variety of the types of members. Some are students, some are employees, some are entrepreneurs. I think the biggest value people get right away when you come to a meeting is the networking and meeting people in other disciplines within the community too. I mean, I'm a web developer, and I've met people that I probably would never come across in business otherwise, that they have connections and they have ideas and services that I might need there. And also obviously the programming we do, we try to provide value in terms of ongoing education, new ideas, that kind of stuff. For sponsors, that jobs board is super nice. We also offer kind of a platform to reach our members and let people know you're here. Exposure in general, just like most sponsorships. But really, I think, and also if you become a sponsor, you get free X number of free memberships based on how much you give, that kind of stuff. But I think most of our sponsors really have enjoyed it because it's provided a lot of value outside of work to their employees. Marlin Network is on there, and they have multiple businesses in Springfield, and they have a really good turnout, and we've heard really good things from making them feel like there's more going on than just their company, because they're around creatives all day at their work. But I think there's something valuable in getting out and seeing that there's more going on that kind of relates to you that you might not have known about otherwise.
I'm Deb Wilson with the Ozarks Esteem Coalition, OSTEAM, and Dylan, you were talking about value, and value is a very important part that these Springfield creative people do for our organization. They helped us, and we didn't even know this. This was simply by accident that we found out about this, but at Christmas last year, they gave us enough money to purchase a 3D printer pen that is used at our Ozarks Mini Maker Fair, and that is Discovery Center uses, and Dream It, Make It uses it. And so all of these things came across because they saw a need and they helped out another organization. Even though they're a nonprofit too, they helped us out. So I thought that was really big in talking about value, bringing it in and bringing it back and paying it forward to the community. I think they do a really great service for the community.
Yeah, I think it was probably about a couple weeks before that meeting, and Jared actually said, "Hey, there's this OSTEAM thing going on. Let's raise some money for him." And we collected enough money at our meeting to buy him that pin. So that's a good story. We are also we are trying to plug into other things going on in the community. We realize that kind of like I think I was talking to somebody about this earlier, that there's a Chamber of Commerce that really focuses on business, and there's the Arts Council that really focuses on the arts. And we think that there's kind of a middle ground there that wasn't being served. But that being said, there's also these other organizations that are doing things that we feel we are complementary to and go well with us. So for example, Startup Weekend in November, we're giving some money towards that, and we're offering free membership to the winning team. So we are trying to get plugged into other organizations and be a part of the greater community that way.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charlie. What kind of creatives do you want to have in your membership, and is it open to other people beyond your creatives? Yeah,
it's like I said, it's open to anybody. I think the vast majority of our membership are probably designers. I would personally like to see more real world creators. I'd love to see like some hairdressers. I'm trying to get Jonathan to join from Brick and Mortar. I think what he does is art for sure. I think there's, like I said, there's a lot of value in having that diversity of professions, and so I'm sure there's professions I didn't even know existed in Springfield. That would be awesome. So yeah, if you know anybody that makes artisan soap, tell them to join us.
Can I get you to elaborate on the Paint the Pint?
Paint the Pint. So I don't know the details of how it works, but as far as what I understand is you show up, they're going to have X number of pint glasses, they're going to have materials for painting said pint glasses, and there'll be Mother's beer. And I assume once they run out of pint glasses, there's probably not anymore, but we've had a really good turnout at these happy hours, so get there early.
When is it?
It's the I don't know. It's normally the first Thursday, but I think they might have had a conflict, and I think we moved it. If there's not a Facebook event yet, there will be. If you like us on Facebook, you'll see we always post everything we're doing. And we also post it on the website, and it'll be in our newsletters, so there's lots of ways to find out.
Hey, Charlie, so you and I both went to Glendale. I'm a huge supporter of Springfield Public Schools, and it's kind of a broken record, but it blew my mind when I found out Springfield Public Schools is the largest public school district in the state of Missouri. So I believe we have like something really cool here. Is there an opportunity for you guys to work with Springfield Public Schools? I mean, maybe even down to the elementary level. Like, I think that's a cool culture to start early. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. When we first got together, that group of us that said let's make this more than a Facebook group, we were throwing out all kinds of awesome ideas. And I think really this first year was just like, let's just get the ball rolling, prove this thing is a real thing. But working closer with younger than college age students is certainly something that's come up. I think probably our first step would be partnering with someone like OSTEAM or these organizations that are already working in there and try to plug in that way. But I mean, technically, these elementary school and middle school kids are students, so they can join for free if they want, as far as I'm concerned.
Charlie, you know how we end every session. What can we as a community do for you?
Yeah, so like I said, join. I mean, that's huge. Just come out to a meeting. You can always come to a meeting for free. If you start coming to multiple for free, I might start recognizing you and calling you out on it. But they're always free to try. Sponsor us, even if you're not, even if the core of what you do isn't necessarily a creative industry. I think we add a lot of value to the community, just in terms of making our city more attractive for this demographic. So certainly sponsor us, and then just spread the word. Tell your brother, your sister that is dabbling in Photoshop about us.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie, for presenting and for all that you're doing here in Springfield. And I just wanted to announce again, Michelle Granger has a survey. She is a professor at MSU, and the survey is about entrepreneurship. If you have not filled that out yet, there is a hard copy over here, and there is a link on our Facebook page.
Right, and I've got that link right here. Go right to the Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And that's. So I bring up your email really quick and see because I just sent that.
Let's just do it. I don't want to mess with it.
Cool, so let's get donuts at our next meeting. And we also have announcements here. If you will take note of what's on the board, I'd appreciate that. And let's see, we have Joe and Christine Dawes. They're going to talk about the Salt Room experience.
That's right, we ready? Oh, don't clap until you hear the presentation. Thanks for being here, guys. We've been here before. We love 1 Million Cups. We try to come as often as we can, and we have presented twice on our existing company, which is called Granola. So hopefully you've seen it or heard about it, maybe. But today we have a new idea, a new concept that we're going to present to you guys. And so apparently Joe and I like to dabble in startups the way Picasso dabbled in watercolors. So here we go. This is called Breathe, a Salt Room Experience. And so let me backtrack a little and tell you why we have come up with this new idea for a new business here in Springfield. Who in the room, show of hands, suffers ever in the Ozarks from allergies, colds, asthma, sinus problems? I'm going to raise mine high because I actually didn't until I moved to the Ozarks. Heard that story before. But anyway, that is partly what prompted us to start looking into this, mainly because of our 2 young children. We have a son who's 9 and a daughter who's 6. Both of them have been on allergy medicine since they were babies because they just can't process it without the medicine. And we have gone through all kinds of different regimens and medicines and what I wouldn't give to get my kids off of Zyrtec. And I've heard that story from so many parents and other moms that I talk with, but also adults who suffer from allergies. So for the last few years, I've been researching alternative ways to treat allergies and asthma, and our kids miss a lot of school days, so we are in the doctor a lot. We spend a ton of money on doctor's visits and allergy medicine year round. And so this is what prompted us to kind of look at what else is out there. And it's interesting because we tried a lot of the natural remedies, the honey, the saline spray, all that kind of stuff. We came across this salt room idea just a few months ago, and I was fascinated by it, mostly because it has a history and because the science behind it made so much sense. But we're going to show you a video to start to kind of explain to you what a salt room is.
Well, and if you don't think this affects you, who breathes in this room? There's one. Okay, that's good. That's positive. This is voluntary, though. It is.
Sorry, Chad, how do I get out
We
back
may
to
have
the
a-
video?
Here.
Nope. No.
No. Bueller? He brought it up on
It
the
was
web.
where your million cup stuff. Oh, it was just where all the different windows were. There it is. Thank you.
Pardon our technical
There
difficulties.
we go.
Salt therapy has been used for centuries to help cure some of the most common illnesses. In the 1840s, Dr. Felix Bochhaus, the state authority for occupational health in the Polish industry, did research on miners. While most metal and coal miners battled deadly respiratory ailments, salt miners were healthier than average person, let alone other miners. The reason behind this history was salt. Salt miners were exposed to salt in March in a form of salt therapy, later known as halotherapy. Halotherapy uses aerosol salt. The size of the particles is the same as in natural salt caves. When breathed, these particles penetrate deep into the bark where the antiseptic properties of the salt can work on mucus and infections. Common uses for halotherapy are cold, allergies, asthma, dermatitis, psoriasis, cystic fibrosis. Salt particles also has negative electrical charges, and when it comes in contact with the skin surface, it causes electrical stimulation to the skin cells. This stimulation increases the production of collagen fibers, which is a key process to skin rejuvenation. Additionally, negative ions help strengthen the immune system by increasing the production capacity of lymph cells. This helps improve the body's reaction to fight ailments such as psoriasis and atopic dermatitis. If you're interested in adding a salt room to your spa, hotel, alternative medicine center, or build a standalone halotherapy center,
That's it. It's just a contact page. This is the lady who builds them. She let us use her video.
And you should contact us, not them.
Yeah, right.
And by the way, this goes to Jonathan in the corner. We do not want anybody stealing this idea from us because this is brand new. And this sort of goes on the edge of what a lot of people will accept as, okay, this is something that will make me better. We consider this part of the wellness trend. And everybody, the goal, at least our goal in our family, is not to go to the doctor, to stay out of the doctor's office. And there are lots of, we think, applications for this to keep kids and adults healthy in all kinds of measures, whether it's through sinus issues or breathing problems or things like that. And some of you saw the newspaper article about a couple weeks ago that talked about DPC, direct primary care doctors. Anybody see that, the new doctors? Okay, there's a new movement afoot, and this is happening across the nation, just coming to Springfield, where doctors are operating outside of the managed care networks. And they are contracting directly with people to pay and take care of their medical needs. So you see the doctor as much as you want. You don't worry about co-pays. The doctor's goal, kind of like it was back in the day, is to keep you out of his office or her office. This is one of those things that will help them do that. So we're hoping to partner with some of those people, those like-minded doctors, not just DPCs, but doctors that are thinking about your health, not prescribing medicine, because that's really what we're against in the whole bit.
Yeah, we started to look into where do these exist. Do you want to start the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
And they're everywhere. They've been in Europe. The video was kind of hard to hear, but it started in the 1800s. They discovered salt mine workers were just way healthier than any of the other mine workers they had, but even healthier than the general population. So that's where the connection started. They've existed in Europe for decades, literally for centuries. And so then I looked around the United States, and they're starting to pop up everywhere. St. Louis has one, Kansas City has 2 salt rooms. So we went to the one in St. Louis because we wanted to see what it was about. We liked it, and we felt like it helped. We went once, and you'll see why when I explain through the presentation that you might need to go more than once. But the owner of the facility in St. Louis, he started it because his daughter suffered from asthma. She was on a lot of inhalers, a lot of medicines. He and his wife heard about the salt therapy. They built the salt room. They put her in there once a day, every day for 20 days. He called it the shock therapy because she just went every day for 20 days. And then after that, off her medicines for good. And then she maintained once a week. She went once a week back. Those kind of stories are what give me hope as a parent of kids with allergies and asthma. And we really believe it works. So let's go through halo therapy, as you heard maybe in the video. So you sit in the room and you're inhaling the tiny salt particles. If you guys remember back, I mean, even like in the early 1900s, doctors would send people who were sick away to the seaside to convalesce, to breathe in that salt air. This goes along the same lines as that. So it's not really a new concept, just the salt rooms and actually building one and having a place dead center in the middle of the country where there is no sea is kind of a new concept. So it uses pharmaceutical grade salt, and this is what the halo generator is. This is what you have to buy for the room, and it generates the salt particles. You put the salt in, it grinds it up, and then it mixes in with the air in the room, and the rooms are pretty airtight, and you have a special HVAC system, but it you sit in there and you're literally breathing it in. And when we did it, it was interesting because we got in there and all of a sudden we all started kind of like blowing our nose and coughing a little bit, and our son, who gets croup like at least twice a year, was on the verge of getting an episode of croup that day when we went, and that's really what prompted me to make that appointment. We went in, we breathed it in for 45 minutes, and that night, no croup cough. I was really excited about that.
And let me interject that when you go into these places, there's salt everywhere. There's salt on the floor, salt on the ceiling, salt on the walls, and you can almost see it, but it's not real obvious. Kind of a mist that comes in when the salt comes in there. You can sort of taste it on your lips a little bit, but it's not like you walk out and you've got salt crusted all over you or anything like that, and it's not like it's hard to breathe. It's just like we'd be sitting in here, and all of a sudden you'd say, that's weird, I can taste salt.
Yeah, you can see the mist a little
right,
of it.
so
yeah.
it's very relaxing, but it's also just like sitting there in a regular room.
Yeah, the particles are so fine that so you can breathe them deep into your lungs. I mean, that's the whole point, get it in there. So, and you can see the rooms the way Joe is talking about. I love this one. It's a kid's room, and then there's a bigger room for adults, and that's kind of our thought behind doing one here is you'd have two rooms, one bigger, and then one smaller for kids. Kids can play in the salt on the floor like it's sand. But if you have two rooms, then you kind of maximize your client base and when they can come in and who can go in what room, so you have that opportunity. So there's that. We also were thinking additionally, if you have a salt room, what else are you going to offer? Maybe like a really healthy organic tea bar, lots of good smoothies and that sort of thing. Maybe a yoga or massage room. Some of these salt rooms are connected to spas. In Europe, a lot of them are in the hospitals. So we thought that was really interesting.
And there's a lot of applications that you can do. We've looked at a lot of different business models and what people do, and there's a lot of, as we say, these add-ons or these additional services that you can provide at the salt rooms.
I did a little domain search, so there's some of our options. I put them up so you guys could weigh in if you've got one that you think might work better, but a lot of the good ones are taken already, like, obviously just salt.com, which would have been cool, breathe.com. breathesalt.com is taken. So I came up with different ones that, and we're not tied to the name even, but we kind of came up with it. Like I said, it's very early stages. So if you like one, vote for your favorite.
Salty dog.
One of my friends, actually, who works at Marlin, and she's like, why don't you just call it Lick? I was like, I think people would be very disappointed when they came in.
That's from the creative.
Yeah.
That's from the creative people in this town, so be careful of them. Whoops.
Oh, back
Sorry.
one. There you go. Here's the hurdles as we can see them. We've thought about this for a whole 4 months. So, and when we talk to the owners of the salt rooms that exist in Missouri, this is kind of what they said as well. A lot of people don't really understand it, and they won't make time for it, so we have to educate them, obviously. It's sort of like exercise. So if you've never worked out and you go for a 5-mile run one day, your body's not going to change. You got to do it over. You got to build up to it. And then people's time is so limited. I mean, how many of us can even make time to take a half-hour lunch? Or, it's so limited. So here are the solutions. As I said, it's a educational process. So there'll be a strong local advertising marketing campaign. Then to get people to come in more, we might make deals on packages so that people don't just try it once and go away saying, oh, it didn't work for me, I tried it once. So you want to follow up and have them try it more than once. And we are just, literally to the point, I just want one here so badly just so we can keep trying it. I'm almost ready to let somebody else do it. But
no, we're not.
The The time issue is something we thought about a lot. I mean, Joe and I are super busy, so we were like, I can't go sit in a room for 45 minutes in the middle of the day. Said, but what if you can offer a Wi-Fi system, the television, your kids can watch a video, you're working on your iPad. Because the salt is generated into the air, electronics are a big factor that you have to protect them. You don't want the salt getting in. So I thought, well, maybe we could just offer, guest otter boxes to cover iPads, cover iPhones, or cover laptops when they come in, so people can sit and work and breathe at the same time. But that's sort of just an option. Here are the costs. So a salt room, for 2 salt room spas, $50,000 to $150,000. And we've talked to companies that build salt rooms. We've talked to companies that sell these halo generators. We've talked to owners of these salt rooms, and you can see all the things that's involved in those costs. The Halo Meds, well, that's one of the brands of the Halo generators. 2 of those spa machines, the architecture and the consultations on that, because you're not just building a regular room, you're working with salt, so it's a little bit different medium. There's lots of decorations, the salt walls, the Himalayan salt bricks, the zero gravity chairs that you sit in to make it real comfortable. Again, the electronic system, it's got to be a protected system. The salt floors, special mats you walk on, a sound system, and the HVAC is all covered under that.
And we should say it is apparently highly technical to build one of these because of the corrosive nature of salt and salty air. So you don't just throw a bunch of salt on a wall. And the HVAC system has to be separate from the building. So it's really complicated, and that's why a lot of companies in the video that we showed has people come in and say, okay, we'll handle this. We do this, and we'll make sure that this is protected. The HVAC has got to be its own separate unit. It has to have a certain amount of pressure given your square footage, so it's very technical. That's the reason for the high cost. The income potential, this is what excites us. Christine always brings me back down to earth because I always look at this and think, we can make $1 million. But then she said, all right, now let's look at reality. So reality is at the bottom. Let's start at the top. So we're talking about $30 a session per person. That's for an hour. And that's going to be generally what's accepted across the country as an hour-long session.
That's actually in the low range, because the range is from like $25 a session on the very low end up to $99 a session, like in some California salt rooms, we're seeing.
And given our cost of living in the Ozarks, this is going to be more in line with the St. Louis. So $30 a session. So we just started doing the math. 10 chairs, it's open 8 hours a day, 24 days a month. That's what we're talking about for 100% occupancy. That's monthly income. So we just, of course, you can see what half of that would be. So we looked at what's 25% occupancy, because you're not going to start with somebody in those chairs the whole time. So we figure $12,000 a month is more realistic. We know of one working salt room that is making somewhere between $7,500 and $10,000 a month, because they have a set rate, but then they have also, you can buy an annual and go as many times as you want, so you have to figure in the different costs. So just do the math times 12 there, and you can see what your annual income could be. We don't believe, outside of your initial costs and the amount you'd spend for the Halo generator and the construction of the room, your architect and everything, the HVAC system, outside of that original cost, your monthly expenses wouldn't be anywhere near that. In fact, they'd be probably less than a third of that. So the income potential, and that's why we're here, because its potential is pretty great, we believe. So why are we here? Investors, we're looking for investors. We need to know anybody who's got connections to architects. We know a bunch. But architects with salt room or salt cave experience, that's really what we're after. Medical feedback, these DPCs that I talked about, direct primary care physicians. Any doctor that's willing to step out and try this or take a look at this. And if you Google this, you'll find doctors on all ends of the spectrum, but most are reserved because they don't want to endorse an alternative medicine treatment.
Right. Obviously, it takes away from their business. And I don't think necessarily that all doctors are out to poo-poo alternatives, but I think it's a fine line there for them. So to get them to jump on board and endorse something like this publicly, and then, hey, their administration at the hospital's knocking on their door saying, why are you saying this? So it's a slippery slope for them.
And that's why I'm thinking that some of these DPCs might be good for us. And I want to be really clear that we don't hate medicine. We think medicine is a very good place. In fact, the root of medicine is based mostly in plants and things like that. So we're not against medicine. we are for limiting medicine and trying to get rid of medicine so we can live our lives naturally.
We should say we're against over-medicating, which
Yeah,
I think is
and
what's happening in
which
the
I think
society a lot.
Most
Yeah.
people would be, and that's the whole reason we started Granola, because we wanted to try to get natural food into our systems, so we're putting good in and good out, that whole natural system. So location, we happen to think East Sunshine is a great spot for this. There are some locations in that area, but we're open. We really need to find the right spot, though. That's key for us.
I like East Sunshine. We looked at a couple places in that area, mostly because it's not too far north, it's not too far south, it's right off of 65, so there's good access for people going up and down to Nixa, to Ozark even, and so it's not just limiting people to get to it. And so, you know, you could argue so many things. Maybe it needs to be west, maybe it needs to be east, who knows, but that just seems like a really highly visible area, and there's a couple of new buildings going up there that might be potential locations for this.
I think finally is our
Just
finally,
breathe,
right?
yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
All right, you never know what you're going to hear at 1 Million Cups. There's a salt room coming now. And this is where we open it up to questions and feedback from you guys. You guys are the target market here. So really important that you guys kind of bring up things at this point, that reasons you might go, reasons you might not go, because this can help kind of streamline a lot of the growth of what they're looking at over the next 12 to 18 months. So if you have a question, input, raise your hand.
Yeah, the more questions, the better today.
You mentioned some of the problems and some of the major costs associated with this, and it seems like some of those are associated with the scale of it and the delivery method of the actual salt air. Have you looked at, you mentioned inhalers and how those are kind of a bad thing, but what about the salt room experience and the scale of that space is essential to this idea?
Well, the scale of the space is important, that you maximize the number of seats you have so that you can maximize your income, basically. So we've looked at the different models out there, and a lot of places start with one salt room, and then they've kind of grown and they realize they needed two, because you'll get a family of 4 like we did that comes in, they want to be in together, so they're in a room. But then there's just some guy in his business lunch, and he doesn't want to be in with that family of 4. So guess what? He goes into that smaller room. So really, just from talking with the current owners, they've seen the need for 2 rooms. The delivery method is finite. It's that halo generator. That's it. That's the one that exists. And there are a lot of companies that produce those, but we've gotten recommendations on the best company to use, the one that kind of started it here in the United States. A lot of this started with companies in Europe coming over and helping people build them, and the companies in Europe were supplying the halo generators, but now there's companies here starting to realize the potential of it, and they're starting to provide them here in the United States. So the supply of the salt particles is the halo generator. There's really no other mechanism that I can see out there. Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I was wondering along the same lines, I'm not sure if you were talking about maybe some type of an inhaler that you could use for salt instead of needing a whole room. Is there anything out there?
Okay.
I don't know if that's what he meant, but I was thinking about that.
There are lots of ways, and some of you, anybody had a Himalayan salt lamp on their desk, or have you seen those things? Yeah, they kind of look like that orange glowing thing. The concept behind that is to heat that salt and have it ionize the air a little bit, and then you breathe into that. That's kind of passive. There's not a lot of benefit you're going to get from that. We also have this thing called a salt pipe, which is it's just like a little funnel, and you put Himalayan salt in the bottom, and there's holes in there, but they're chunks of salt, and you breathe through that. So that's a direct thought. But you got to stick the pipe in your mouth, and you got to do that. And who wants to do that for 45 minutes? Or 30 minutes or any time like that.
It's not as effective as the bottom line. The guy who owns the one in St. Louis, he said, yeah, you could put 10,000 of those salt lamps in a room, and maybe it would give you the same benefit of inhaling the particles. Mm-hmm. We all do saline sprays, neti pots, sinus rinses. It helps to some extent, maybe sinus-wise, but it's not the same theory as inhaling it deep into your lungs. And nothing else that I found, because I was like, I want to do this at home. I want my kids to be able to do this at home. And so I said to Joe, I don't want to start a business, but we got to the point where you can't do it in your house. I mean, literally, unless you want to buy a $4,000 machine and turn one of your rooms into a salt room, there's no other way to effectively deliver this.
Thank you. Yes. I had one other question as a follow-up to that, is the collagen. You just barely touched on that, and that would be an important part for women especially.
See, we didn't delve into that as much because that video was made by a company that builds those. But and I haven't researched the collagen aspect of it. I think when you start promising things like that, you get in a little bit kind of a careful place. You have to be. I'm not positive what the collagen effects would be, but I did firsthand experience the inhaling effects. I think, if you want to say anything.
We want to be careful about the add-ons that we talked about. We want to be really careful about overextending. We're not doctors and we're not estheticians, and we can't help you with skincare. Potentially we could bring someone on that could do massage or skincare, because there are some therapeutic benefits to like salt scrubs. I mean, a lot of people use those already. So that option's there. That's not our primary focus right now. Our primary focus is really health.
But I would live in that salt room once it's built, and I'll let you know how my skin looks. I'll do before and afters.
I have a minion. She's 4, and she has horrendous allergies. Is there an age limit, like too young or too?
There's not. There are babies as young as newborns are going into this, and there is, you can Google anything and find something bad about it. I mean, I literally went through that process too, because I was like, surely there. And they even have said on a lot of these studies, and the New England Journal of Medicine did one of them, there's no negative effects from breathing it in. Nothing negative from it. We inhale salt when we go to the ocean. Nobody usually comes home and says, oh my gosh, all that salt air was so bad for me. So it's truly, there's nothing out there that says it's bad.
And I'd like to add something, because I grew up with asthma, and that was in the, pardon me for dating myself, late 60s and 70s. And nobody knew what to do with asthmatics then. And my dad used to sit me in front of a window to stare at the sun and drink a hot cup of coffee, which was perfect for this. But so, back then we didn't know what to do, and kids were just had to sit inside and look outside and struggle to breathe, What this does is it allows that stuff to go deep into your bronchioles and way deep in your lungs, and that allows it to open up. And probably the greatest benefit is for cystic fibrosis patients. And the only major study that has been done that shows a direct correlation to salt therapy and health benefits is with cystic fibrosis patients. They have a condition that's like asthma times 100. And so what this does is it gets deep into those lungs, and it allows what happens, your little airways fill up with mucus, so they're like tiny, and that's why you struggle to breathe. So allergies do that to a degree, asthma does it much worse, and cystic fibrosis is even worse. So the concept is to get that salt down in there and affect that mucus and get rid of it. So the whole point is it's a cleanse. It's like a breathing cleanse through your sinuses and through your lungs.
Salt kills germs. We all know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Ed?
I have a question about the aesthetics of the room. Why are you lining it with salt if the effect comes from the hollow generator? Why not just have a room?
Good question.
It mostly is for aesthetics. It looks cool.
But also because you've got salt air in there, and if you have, it depends on the surface, but whatever that surface is, you've got corrosive air over time, if there's any kind of moisture in there, that you want to be careful of. And if there's a salt on the wall, it's not going to affect that at all. In fact, it'll just glom onto the salt wall and the salt floor. So, as best
like
we
a
understand.
stalactite getting bigger. Yeah.
Stalagmite.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Assuming you're leasing your space, I'm curious, are they going to have any problems with you making these major changes to the HVAC and everything?
Well, we wouldn't make changes to the HVAC, and that's a key point, because you have to have your own HVAC system, because of the corrosive nature of salty air. If we did that, I mean, you might have some kind of an issue with the HVAC in the building.
It's separate from the building HVAC. You're doing an HVAC for the rooms, for the 2 rooms. That's separate, and really it just needs an outlet for it. So, yeah, that's a good question, because we talked about that too.
Yes, I just had a question about your site location and what other salt rooms look like, throughout the world. It seems like it would be ideal in a cave or something even underground in a basement type of a thing. But are some of these in just like, a dentist office type setting? Would you need anything like, special thick reinforced walls or climate control, or what type of a setting are you looking for, and are these typically in?
Well, we do know the Greasmers at Springfield Underground. That would be amazing, right?
But partner right next to the Kraft cheese.
I don't, or whatever's stored in the very back, which nobody knows. No, most of these are in just regular offices. You create the environment inside. You create the atmosphere, if you will. You have to have temperature and humidity controls. So once you go into the salt room or the salt cave, whatever you want to call it, that's the experience, and that's what you're after. The outside really doesn't matter, although we think the outside is important because you want to be visible, you want to make sure that you've got decent neighbors, right, all those kinds of things.
Hey, Joe, just two things. One, about protection for eyes with and without contact lenses. And the other is, have you found any physicians that you can align with for testimonials in terms of your bid for getting investors?
Let me answer number 2 first, and you can talk about number 1. Number 2 is what we're working on right now. And while we don't think it's imperative to have those doctors behind us, I think it would be important, and it just lends credibility to this because it's something new. And, we all, most of us anyway, use sinus spray, or you've used saline spray. I mean, we know what it is. It's been around forever. It's really not that new age kind of medicine, if you want to call it that, at all. It's something that's been around for a long, long time. So this just builds upon something we've always had. So in that respect, we don't need that, but we're looking for that, yeah.
I wear contacts. I've been into the room twice, no problem. I clean my contacts in saline. So salt doesn't bother my eyes.
That's the beauty of it. I mean, salt is a makeup of our body. I mean, it's in our tears, it's in our sweat, everything. So it is one of the most natural things you could use.
Hi, I'm Larry Askren with Advanced Fabrication Technologies. And thinking about your space, how to maximize your volume of people in your space, you said 4 or 5. What about, am I correct to assume laptops aren't good in this space, or notebooks, or?
Well, that's something that's what we kind of addressed. You have to make sure they're covered. So you got to have your protection over your electronics.
I was just thinking of having a row of cubicles with almost like I don't know if you're familiar with sandblasting, but where you actually just put your laptop in a protected area and then reach in there and tap away, and so that way you could just, you could have a whole row.
That's a great
come
idea.
in and sit down and rent a space out and put their own computer in there.
We're trying to embrace some kind of technology because people will come in and want to use their devices.
It'll be like a clean room.
Right, right.
That's a great idea. And when you go into the rooms, you have to take your shoes off and you wear those little booties that you do when you go see houses that realtors show. Because they don't want anything coming in, and you kind of walk on a special mat. But yeah, I mean, that kind of idea is what we're looking for. So that's perfect. Thank you.
Hi there. I think this is a wonderful idea. I've got a couple of questions. What about people who have sensitivities to salt, eating salt, that it bothers them, like aching joints and bloating and things? Is this a side effect from this process? And also, have you thought about partnering with, there is a direct care provider, at least one here in Springfield. Have you thought about looking for a location either close to them or partnering with them, something like that?
Well, I'm having lunch with one of them today. There are 6 DPCs, and there's 1 or 2 coming online that are about to start up. So my day job is advertising sales, so that's one of our focuses here with marketing advertising. So my hope is to, and I'm getting to know all of those doctors, and we hope to work with them. Now, whether we would be next to them, they're all over the place. I mean, they're in Ozark, they're in Nixa. There's one that's opening at the College Street parking lot downtown here by Hollywood Theater. They're all over the place. So that's a possibility, sure.
As far as it affecting people who can't ingest salt, there's no known correlation that I can find. Again, we've looked. Like I said, I haven't found anything like that. As a matter of fact, your question brought up one news article I saw that just said, ingesting it might be an issue, but you're not ingesting it in this situation. You're breathing it. It's a whole different effect on the body from eating a bag of potato chips that are loaded with bad salt. This is pharmaceutical grade salt. It's really different. That's the best I can answer it. Sorry.
This is kind of a supplementary idea, but have you looked into or considered it's in the same vein as salt, but the sensory deprivation chambers?
That's really hot right now.
Yeah, and I actually went to one in Arkansas, drove all the way just for that experience. And but you're basically soaking in salt, and you have a pod, and it deprives you of your senses, so it's relaxing, and it's just an idea, supplementary.
And I've debated in my head, and I've talked with Joe, and I've talked about, I'd say maybe one room is that working space with your row of laptops, and the other room is the nothing. Which room do you want today? Do you need to work, or do you want to relax? So maybe that is the option. That's a good idea too.
Well, and I've heard of those too. And you know, the beauty of it, and right now, see, we think we are perfectly timed right now. And that's the reason why we're not necessarily ready to open this tomorrow. We're looking for investors to help us on the front end of this. But we think the time is right because these are popping up all over the country. Those kinds of chambers are forming all over the country, all over the world, really. So there's in sort of the social consciousness out there and the awareness of people, there's a real desire to try to find something natural that can keep you healthy out there. And that's what we're after here. So we're on the same plane.
Yeah, it's trending hot right now. We love, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
One last question.
Sure.
All right, kind of piggybacking off of that, when I want to go relax somewhere, I don't necessarily want to work, but I also don't want to waste my time. So I think I'd be antsy just sitting there for 45 minutes. Would it be practical to have an actual yoga class in the room, doing something kind of dual purpose, or getting a massage in the room, something where you're kind of breathing in while you're doing something else?
Yeah, I think that's a definite possibility. I love that idea, and and I love getting massages too. So to breathe and get the massage at the same time, for sure. And then that masseuse, that person is going to be like our case study. We're going to see if they're in there all day, like how they're. It's a great idea, dual purpose for sure.
And we can't say who, but someone you see on television is becoming a certified yoga instructor, and we're hoping to bring them in to do this if we go that way. But they're good friends, so we'll see.
That's great. Guys, right before we wrap up, we finished with how can we as a community help you. Would you also let us know what the best way to get a hold of you is?
Oh, yeah, that. We got it right there. We do want investors in this. We think it's going to be a great moneymaker, bottom line, and we think it's coming to Springfield one way or another. We want to be the ones who bring it here. And also, again, architects who might know of this, might have an idea of how to work with this and work with the suppliers to build this kind of room.
Yeah. I just lost my train of thought.
Well, how to get a hold of us.
Yeah, that's it. I would just look up Granolove. That's our main company right now.
Oh, you want to do the trivia real quick?
Yeah, GRANOLOVE, granolove.com. So if you go on there, you can send us an email.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we're all over it. It's on the back of our bags in every grocery store in town. And we were going to give away 4 bags real ck. Chad, can we do that?
Do it, yeah.
All right, Joe, trivia, go ahead.
Okay, how old is Granolove? Does anybody know? 3 years. Nope. Hold up your hand. 5 years?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Just give it away.
you got a bag. All right, one more question.
Go for it. What hospital do we give donations to?
Nope. Congratulations.
Raise your hand. There you go. Close, but no. No?
Seriously, people? We've been here twice presenting for Granolove.
No, she said St. Jude. Our daughter's name is Jude. That's the confusion. Children's? No? Closer. It's in St. Louis.
Anybody? Okay. Wow. All right, we get to keep it. It's okay. It's Shriners Hospital.
Shriners.
They helped our daughter, so they're.
Okay, who's here for the first time?
Yeah, that's true.
Give them one. Yeah.
Right.
There you
Okay.
go.
Oh, that's good. Okay, and lastly, can I ask Sterling to stand up? I've been here a few times. I'm sick and tired of Sterling being the best dressed man in the room. So am I competing? Thanks for having us, and don't forget to breathe.
Okay, guys, that's our show. Joe and Christine are a shining example of people who know exactly what they want and how to get it out of the 1 Million Cups audience. So if you know a company who could benefit from this platform, come check us out up here. Database Systems is kind enough to provide a computer. We'll walk you through the application and get you set up to present in the next month or so. Charlie, thank you so much for coming out here. We'll see you guys again next week.